Well, Steve, what's up, man? Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Tanner.
All right, dude. I am curious. You and me both have a door-to-door selling background. What got you into door-to-door? Like, why door-to-door? What got you into that? You even built a company that I'm assuming, right? We're going to get to that as well. That is literally all door-to-door selling. So how did that even start? Like, let's start there.
Yeah, so growing up, man, I always wanted big things. I just never knew how to accomplish it. So I quickly found out when I went to college out here in UNLV that college was not the move. I actually, all I cared about was college, was partying, girls, having a good time out here in Sin City. And I quickly realized the goals and things I wanted to accomplish in life wasn't congruent with what I was doing on a daily basis. So I actually saw a YouTube video on how college is a scam, and I dropped out the next day and I got involved in network marketing. I don't know if you're familiar. I cut my teeth there in terms of entrepreneurship, did it for 3 years, made literally no money, but learned a lot about sales, entrepreneurship, personal development, public speaking, the universal laws, just really opening my mind that you don't have to be a doctor, lawyer, or surgeon in order to be successful. You can go into business or to some type of industry with the right philosophy and mentality and go create success. So after network marketing didn't work out, I started looking at other opportunities. A buddy hit me up about this door-to-door thing selling pest control, actually. I was a little skeptical. I'm not Mormon, I'm Jewish, so I never, knocked doors or anything like that. No shade. Most of my company is LDS. But I realized, man, I've always been an open-minded dude. A mentor once told me that, your mind kind of works like a parachute. It doesn't work if it's not open. So I was like, okay, started doing research, and I saw that so many successful people who I studied in the network marketing field, people like Tony Robbins, Mark Cuban, Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Jordan Belfort, all these super successful business people all started in door-to-door, and they had a background and they dedicated a lot of their success to the skills and things they learned along the journey of it. So I ended up dropping my life, moved to New Brunswick, New Jersey. Not a great place. Wouldn't recommend going. Did it for 3 days and it was awful. I didn't like the culture. I didn't like the product. I believe that you have to be super passionate about what you're selling. You're not going to be a good salesperson. I just couldn't get stoked about killing bugs. So I ended up staying in New Jersey for 2 weeks.
And how old were you, by the way, when this is happening? Is this young 20s or how old were you?
Yeah, young 20s. So this is 2015. Okay. I was 22 years old.
It's like straight out of high school-ish or like more college?
Yeah, more college.
More college, okay.
Yeah, and I ended up coming back to Vegas. I had $300 in my bank account because I spent $400 to get my flight. Broke, busted, and disgusted. Told all my friends I was going to go make all this money, doing all these things. Ended up coming back, and thankfully a fraternity buddy told me about this solar thing. I was like, I don't really know. I had a bad experience, but solar, future, that kind of makes more sense. And it was really just a last resort kind of thing. And I buckled down, and that was kind of the history, man. I started doing really well, started making $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month at the time, which was mind-blowing money. And then I ended up growing a team, quickly became a manager, and then ended up moving across the state to California. And I was running sales teams up and down California, moved back to Vegas in 2019. And I was running one of the largest solar divisions in the country in Southern California and Vegas. And then in 2019, myself and 6 of my colleagues all left our previous company and launched our company, Sunder Energy. We started with 60 people in 6 states. And now, we have close to 1,000 sales reps in 32 states, all knocking door to door selling solar. So it's been a hell of a journey.
I think what I find the most interesting, like kind of similar to my story, is that you just had someone who said, hey, maybe this is what you should do. You started doing it, you mastered it, and then you just kept going that direction. I'm curious on your thoughts. Like, it almost sounds like maybe it's a little bit of the luck of the draw, or do you think you're just maybe born to do a certain thing and you fall into it? It's kind of wild when you compare my story to your story, where I had a mentor who said, hey, you should start an online fitness company, and I kind of went that direction. And then you had solar. I don't know. Like, do you think it was kind of meant to be, or do you think you just right place, right time, kind of lucked into it?
I think when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I believe in that. And for the last 3 years, people always ask me, they're like, Steven, how do you build the team so quick? You were the fastest regional manager in that company. You're crushing it. You're doing this. And it's like they see that in a year and a half, 2 years that happened, but they didn't see the 3 years before of me learning how to recruit, learning how to public speak, running network marketing meetings on pitching people on a dream for 3 days every single week when 1 or 2 or no people would show up. So I was building my identity. I was building my belief. I was building my value of what I thought I was worth in the market. marketplace. I was just in the wrong vehicle. So when I made a shift to door, it felt like I was pushing the gas as fast as I can in network marketing, but I was driving a Toyota or an Altima. And then finally, I had the skills. I knew how to navigate the road. I had all the belief that I could get there. And when I moved over to the new vehicle, I just feel like it exploded.
It's absolutely wild. In terms of how the solar company works, I mean, I know a little bit of it, but I actually be curious, and I'm sure the listeners were, what, in short, you don't have to go in like crazy detail, but from beginning to sale, what does that process kind of look like?
Yeah, so we're a door-to-door company. That's kind of our DNA, but you can go create leads however you want. We have people doing online marketing, trade shows, farmers market, et cetera. But you essentially go generate a lead. We'll teach you how to knock doors or go create online. That's your space. You get someone interested. You get their utility bill. The utility bill will allow us to see how much energy they use, and it'll also allow us to give them a mock design of their home. Closer goes into the home, answers all the questions, deals with all the objections, answers all the questions, get them pre-qualified, check their roof to make sure it's structurally sound, and then 3-4 weeks later, the solar is installed.
Wow. And I'm assuming because it's all commission-based, it's just extremely high profit margins. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but that's what I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, so solar is super lucrative because how it works is even though the customer isn't necessarily spending anything out of pocket, when I first got into solar, I was so confused on how these young 20-year-olds were knocking doors, selling strangers these $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70 pieces of equipment. It blew my mind, like how they were doing it. And in reality, when I learned, it's actually not that complicated. So there's a lot of different programs out that where if homes qualify, meaning as long as they spend enough money on their energy bill, they have a decent credit score and their roof isn't like caving in, the solar company will install the panels on the house and doesn't cost them anything out of pocket. They'll install it, maintain it, repair it, monitor it, insure it. All the headaches that are going through your head about solar, the solar company assumes all that liability. And the only thing that changes, instead of the homeowner spending $200, $250 a month on their utility bill, that increases with inflation every year, we'll get them locked in at $160 or $170. That's a fixed rate for 25 years. So all we're doing, we're not adding another expense. We're just doing a bill swap for the homeowners. So instead of having
the electricity bill is just going to the solar and the solar's cheaper.
Correct. That's the whole concept. But we're still paid very healthy commissions because even though the homeowner isn't necessarily spending anything out of pocket for install maintenance monitoring, they're saving money. These contract values over 25 years, think of how much money you give the utility company over 25 years. It's a ton. So we're paid $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 per deal, depending on a lot of different houses by just helping homeowners save money.
Now, let's say hypothetically you put the installation on the roof, and I've seen the panels, right? They're very big. So I'm assuming it's a little bit harder for them to cancel versus like maybe an alarm or like a pest service. So like, let's say hypothetically, you go in the service and 5 years down the road, they don't want it. You sign it's a 25-year contract. You said, I mean, how does that go down?
Yeah, you can't cancel. Like once the install happens, you're locked in. So
go ahead. Yeah, explain that.
So being in the door-to-door space, the three big ones, as you're familiar with, are solar, pest, and alarms. Those are the three big, door-to-door companies. And you can go make hundreds of thousands of dollars, some people millions of dollars doing these specific industries. I would say solar, obviously I'm biased, obviously the highest ticket item, but it does come with some headaches. The average solar system takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to install from, hey, I'm ready to go to actual panels on roof. During that process, the homeowner can cancel at any point until the actual construction is done versus an alarm or a pest service where you're able to get it installed same day or next day. So it does take a little bit higher of a level of professionalism in order to make professional money because it is more of a process to make sure that you're following up with the homeowner. There's a lot more moving parts because you're dealing with construction, permits from the county, homeowners associations, utility approvals, all of these things. But for salespeople that can really understand the process, similar to a real estate agent, right? You just don't close on the house the day that you put an offer in. There's appraisals and there's inspections and there's financing. It's a very similar process. I just think it's a lot easier to sell people energy than homes.
Yeah, and then because, again, I just want to make sure I'm clear, when they start, you're only getting maybe a couple $100 per month, right? So does it take a while to really kind of build that profit, I'm assuming? Because you're you're putting in all that work and time and energy up front, and they're only paying that small bill each month. So it takes a while to kind of make that profit back, correct?
No, so the sales rep will make their commission after the deal is actually installed. They'll make the full commission. So the full $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. It's a one-time. The sales company doesn't take any part in the residual aspect. That just goes to the bank that they're financing through the solar system.
Okay, got it. So like, when do you and maybe I misunderstood, so that's why I definitely want to clarify. So you put it in the system, sales rep gets a couple $1,000, whatever it is, 3, 4, 5,000. Where are you guys getting that first chunk? Is like they're taking a loan out, or where do you guys kind of get that first big payment? Because otherwise what I'm assuming is you guys are taking a massive loss and then you make it back over time.
So the finance company will essentially front it. Kind of think of the mortgage industry. You sign up a house for a $500,000
So you guys are getting
mortgage.
paid by the finance. That makes more sense.
So our whole business model, we only focus on the sales. We don't handle the construction. We don't handle the financing. We outsource that to our partners. We're the largest solar sales force in the country. So all we focus in on is dealing with culture, leadership, sales improvement, experiences, trips, just making sure the salesperson has the best experience ever. And then we outsource the construction, which is the install, and then the finance.
Is that normal?
Some people are vertically integrated, where some people will have their own internal sales, their own construction, and do the financing. We found that it's better to be focused on just one modality versus being a triathlon where you're doing all three, so we can give the best sales experience. But there's a bunch of different companies that do a bunch of different things. We just like this model a little better.
So this might be a dumb question, but there's a friend of mine. I don't know if you'll know him. I think he has a solar company as well. His name's Chris. I don't know if that rings a bell. I won't say his last name.
A lot of Chris's. Out here in Vegas?
I don't think so. I think he's in Utah.
Okay.
I think he's in Utah.
A lot of Chris's.
His initial for his last name's L.
Okay.
But anyways, I guess the only reason I brought it up is what sets apart a different solar company, right? So if let's say someone comes to my house and they're like, Tanner, I want to put a solar roof. I'm like, cool, why should I pick you? What is your competitive advantage, or what can you try to say to where I would pick you over someone else?
So in full transparency, most solar companies, the product is very, very similar. Mm-hmm. So we're a solar broker, basically meaning that we have access to multiple finance companies and multiple installers. So when we go in the home, we say, hey, this is what we'd recommend, but we have access to this, that, and that. And then obviously like a doctor prescribe them the best option based on their needs, their financial situation, and what they're looking to accomplish. But in full transparency, most solar products are very relatively similar. Most of the warranties are the same. Most companies have access to all the same financing. It really just depends on the actual individual in home. Now, some compensation models don't allow people to get as aggressive in the home, because how it is in solar, you have a very wide range of pricing. So you can price super high, or you can price super low, which actually is causing a problem in the industry, because there's so many people being attracted to solar because of the margins and because of how hot the industry right now, that it's bringing a lot of bad actors, and people are coming in, selling a lot, blitzing, making a lot of money, but not setting the customer up in a good position, or not describing how everything works, like the tax credit and all these things. And then there's a bunch of issues because now this customer's stuck in a 25-year loan. So to answer your question, I think it's most important to understand that there's a lot of different finance companies, and solar can be complex, and just making sure you're going with someone who, one, has access to multiple different finance options, so you're not just getting pigeonholed into one, and just someone who you truly trust and that can educate you.
Well, it's so funny you say that too, because one of the rules of thumb when I'm talking to affluent individuals is they always kind of say not to change industries. And the reason is there's a lot of nuance. So I'm assuming I could come into solar, it's I know sales, I've done door to door, but there's so much nuance that would probably take me 1 to 2 years to really figure out. And that sounds like what you're describing, where people come in the market and they kind of get it. They kind of understand the concept, but they're just throwing kind of shit against the wall, and they're like, oh, da da da. I mean, that's unfortunately kind of what happens in a lot of industries, because there's a lot of nuance that a lot of people they take for granted, where it's it's little things, but all these little things add up over time. Obviously, you're very good at sales. You have to be. You sound very well spoken. I mean, I talk to enough guys where I can usually tell in a couple of minutes, how good they are at sales and communication. You've built a massive sales team. So maybe what are some key takeaways of either how you do the hiring process or even how you manage them, even how you might manage the managers? I'm curious to hear on that because, it's always easy with small teams. I mean, and that's one of the things in entrepreneurship. Yeah, having a small team is one thing, but having a massive team, if you're across all the states, you got people in all different, area codes and you can't be everywhere at once, I'm assuming. So, I mean, walk me through kind of like your sales teams, your processes, your interviews, like explain that.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, for everyone out there, like sales, I think is something that everyone does, whether they're conscious of it or not. Like we may be in the profession of sales, but for anyone listening, to some degree, you are exercising the art of sales, whether you're trying to sell your wife on why she shouldn't cheat on you and, love you forever, or sell your children on why they should be a good people and eat their vegetables, right? We're always selling, negotiating, and influencing. So when people tell me, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I don't believe you, because to some degree, we are always communicating. We live on a planet with 7 billion people. So you might as well get good at communicating effectively and getting what you want out of life. With that being said, I think sales and building a team are very, very similar. Some people are like, oh, I could go knock doors and sell, but I can't recruit, I can't build, I can't duplicate. I think the skill set is very similar, but there are some other layers because then you bring in your leadership ability, you bring in your influence and other aspects. So in my experience, culture is everything. If you build it, they will come. The only way to build a long-term, sustainable, successful organization, I don't just think in solar, but I think in any type of business, which we spoke about a little bit earlier, is you need to have a big enough vision for your team where everyone else's vision can fit inside of yours. Culture is more important than strategy. It's not my quote, someone said it, but it makes a lot of sense because when you can create something that people want to be a part of, I believe that everyone is looking for two things in life. Human beings. They're looking for clarity and they're looking for acceptance. Everyone's looking for their purpose. Why am I here? What's my passion? Trying to figure out why we are on this earth and hopefully trying to find fulfillment and being a good person and growing and progressing. Second thing, people are looking for acceptance. They want to be a part of a tribe. We are social animals. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, and they want people around them that don't just tolerate them, but celebrate them. So by creating a culture, an organization, a business, a platform where people can get those two things, they can get vision, they can get clarity, they can get guidance, mentorship, and support, not just with solar, but with life, right? Good leaders don't just help people with their job, they help people with their life. By doing that, that's going to get them vested into the overall vision of the organization. And then if they can be around like-minded people. I don't know about you, man, but one of the best perks of being in college for me was being in a fraternity because I was around a community of people that believed in a certain thing. And I felt that brotherhood and that camaraderie. And it wasn't until I got back into sales where I felt that experience again. And there's a reason that a lot of fraternity brothers end up staying lifelong friends after that because they were bonded and they were, it was a very special point of their life where they created certain bonds and experiences. So in a sales organization, we've done a really good job, I think, of creating a culture of personal development as well. You give them the excitement, you give them the compensation plan and the incentives and all of that stuff. But if you can really focus on growing people and impacting them and helping them buy their first rental property or helping them make their first 6-figure income or just helping them grow as an individual, when you can organically change someone's life, they are indebted for you forever. And by doing that enough times, you build enough success stories and layers of leadership where then it's just duplicatable and you start attracting people at a high level.
I saw that it was really cool because I actually paid off my parents' house. I didn't get buy them one like you because my dad already had one. But
congrats, man.
But I mean, I love that you did that. What was there a specific motivation for that, or did you feel the need that it was something you had to do? Or I mean, talk me around like paying off your parents or buying your parents' a house. Excuse me.
Yeah, so that was always my chief aim, as Napoleon Hill talks about. Like when I first got into entrepreneurship, network marketing, I remember seeing someone at this conference on stage. This is when I was making $1,000 a month selling cabanas at Planet Hollywood, 21, 22 years old. And I saw a guy at this network marketing convention retire their parents on stage. And I remember seeing that. And I was like, man, my parents growing up, similar to you, my mom was a teacher and then my dad was like a security guard. The most they ever made in a year combined was $35,000 a year. Not a lot of money, living in a nice part of town, but like a 700 square foot condo, which is where I grew up, not too far from here. So growing up, I always had the motivation. I want to buy them a house. I want to get them out of their environment, because along the way, especially as I become a teenager, I realized that they have basically given up on their life in the sense of their goals, their dreams. Like, this was it for them. They were going to continue to work until they didn't have to anymore, which was going to be a very long time. And they were going to stay in the 600 square foot condo, and that was their life. And I just always had this burning desire to give them more. They gave me so much, and I felt indebted. I'm an only child, so it was really up to me. I had no brothers and sisters. In order to give them a life, and help almost give them belief that, like, hey, your life isn't over. You know, you don't have to just continue to buy into this lifestyle that you believe that you have to be in because of your current situation. So that was always a big motivation. I mean, I did the dream cards, the vision building. You know, I wish I had it. I could show you a picture from 2013, basically saying I will retire my parents. I will buy them a house, when I was making a couple $1,000s a month, and I just stuck to that. And that was always my emotional pull. Whenever I would get haters, whenever I felt like I was going to quit multiple times, whenever things would happen that weren't expected, I would always use that as my leverage to say, hey, Steven, if you don't do this, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then finally in 2019, I made enough money where I was able to get them a house, which was awesome, big chief aim. And then quickly after that, I bought them a second house that was a little bit better. And now my cousin lives in that first house.
That's amazing, man. So what was the motivation for you? Maybe it was similar to me. I mean, I had 7 siblings. There wasn't a lot of money. And I think for me, I just got tired of being poor. I mean, I just got tired of like asking my parents for stuff. Oh, we can't do that, can't do this. Was there any particular reason that you seem pretty self-motivated? I don't think it's normal for the average guy to be in college and, watch a video and suddenly, oh, I'm going to drop out of college. Like, especially when you had really no siblings or like kind of any maybe support around that. So what was kind of the motivation for you to kind of go out and make your own way and kind of be pretty successful at a young age? I mean, you're a young guy.
Yeah. A big part of it is I was leveraging fear without actually knowing I was leveraging fear. Meaning, I remember there was this time where I was probably right around the college time where, I had to, my parents, again, not making much money. I was supporting where I can, doing my part-time job. But I remember being in a car with my mom and us having to go pawn I don't remember, it was Xbox, PlayStation, to help them pay for some bill. And I remember going to the pawn shop didn't give us what we needed, so we ended up not going there. But I remember going to this like $1 payday loan. And again, growing up, I had everything I needed. We weren't poor, but my parents were the type of parents that would buy me that new game system before, paying their mortgage on time. They'd pay the mortgage late to get me the game system. So I always had everything I wanted at the cost of probably not the best financial literacy skills. But I remember going to this payday loan place, asking for, the loan with my mom in order to, pay whatever bill. And I just remember thinking, I was like, no. Like, I know what type of people, and no offense if you use payday loan, but it's like, I don't want to be this type of person. I don't want our family to be this type of person. And then something just clicked in my mind, man, where it was just like, if I don't go make this happen, what's going to happen? My parents are going to continue to be stressed. My dad has a little bit of a mental disability. Like, what's going to happen with that? And I actually took myself to the worst case scenario. If I don't become successful, not in 10 years from now, not in 15 years from now, but soon, if I don't figure out a way to make this happen soon, what's going to happen to my parents? What's the worst case scenario? And I leveraged that fear to create that fire, to just to create that trajectory in my life. And, lo and behold, a year after that, I got introduced to solar and started, making decent money, and it's been upward from there.
It sounds like you have a lot of love for your parents. Like, it's not that I don't love my parents, but it's, for me, I honestly feel like it was very selfish. It almost sounds like yours was very selfless. So, I mean, kudos to you for that. I think that's great. And I'm sure your parents are super appreciative of what you've done. What's the vision for the company? I mean, you're a young guy. It sounds like, I don't know how many co-owners are. How many are there?
Yeah, so there's 7 partners. So
Wow.
essentially how it works is we have 2 majority partners that run the business from Utah. That's kind of the headquarters. One's the CEO and the president, and the 5 other basically take a section of the country. So like I take mainly, the West Coast. So I got, Vegas, Oregon, a little bit of California, Denver. I got guys in, some of our guys, our partners, Texas, East Coast, so on and so forth. The vision of the company, man, is just to continue to grow and create success stories. Ziglar has a quote. He said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want by default.
Right.
And at least for me, I can't speak for the whole company, but at least for me, it's using solar as a vehicle to continue to, one, impact people's lives, help them become successful, help them accomplish whatever goals, desires, and dreams they have through this vehicle by me giving them the mentorship, the support, introducing them to the right people, and also just being the example. That's something I never had growing up. I never had someone that was actually living the life that I wanted to live. And I think by just living the life, being the example, accomplishing your goals and dreams, by just doing that, you're walking the walk and therefore inspiring the people that's around you. So maybe an exit in the near future, maybe not, but the goal is to use this vehicle, get as much juice out of this solar industry as it will allow us to give in this, finite period that we have, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, and continue to invest wisely to create a lateral move when it's over and be in a better situation.
So explain that. You said, finite. It sounds like it could end at some point. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so no one really knows, but I think a lot about the cell phone industry back in the day. So how the cell phone industry 10, 15 years ago, cell phone salesmen were making pretty good money, 200, 300, 400,000, maybe 15, 20 years ago, at this point when cell phones were still just coming out and you needed representation in order to educate educate customers, go out there and actually sell the product before it was commoditized. Now you go to T-Mobile Sprint, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year, because you don't need anyone to sell an iPhone because everyone has a freaking iPhone. Therefore, the product has become less valuable in order for salespeople. Therefore, commissions have been compressed. I believe that everyone will have solar or some type of renewable energy in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Wow. I think it's a massive solution to a big problem. And I just think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's the Uber to the Netflix, the Uber to the taxi cab industry, the Netflix to the Blockbuster, the Turo to the rental car industry. I just think it's innovation and technology disrupting an archaic industry that should be disrupted. Once solar, if I'm correct, and it becomes monopolized where everyone has it, then for salespeople, obviously commissions get compressed. So I don't think solar is going anywhere, but I think the opportunity of a first-year solar salesperson being able to make $250,000 never knocking doors before, that may go away as solar becomes more mainstream, and you don't need as much sales reinforcement to go educate homeowners.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, what is the multiple on a solar company? It must be very high if you have 25-year, recurring revenue.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the whole solar industry is down right now.
Really?
A lot. Like one of the biggest solar companies is called Sunrun. They're down 50% year over year. The industry is crushing it in terms of volume, but because of everything going on with interest rates and macroeconomics, that highly affects the solar industry because we obviously have big loans, so interest rates and money is a lot harder. I don't really know. Probably 5 to 6x. It's not as much as technology, but it's still pretty good.
Better than consulting. It's like 2 to 3x, man. What's the biggest struggle you've ever faced? I mean, you seem like a pretty happy guy. You honestly don't even come off to me like somebody who probably talks about a lot of the struggles. You just seem, very positive, very upbeat. I'm assuming, obviously, from start to finish, there's been some crazy struggles or either obstacles. Like, what's been like maybe the hardest thing you ever dealt with?
Yeah, there's been a lot, like even in my professional career, it's like new levels, new devils. I would say getting good at door to door was probably one of the most challenging things I've done, at least in my adult life. To your point, when I went out to New Jersey for 3 days, like I quit because I didn't like it, but also because I didn't believe I could do it. That first day out there, just being dropped off in a van was some of the most scariest, intimidating moments of my life. And then all of the self-beliefs, all of the limiting beliefs and the self-consciousness comes up. Am I good enough? Am I a fraud? Is everything I learned over the last 3 years in network marketing, like, is it real? And you have all this self-doubt because you've told so many people for so long. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit college and do all this. And for 3 years, similar to your story, you have zero results to show for it. Then you finally get this big break. You go out there, you're supposed to make all this money in the summer, and then you quit because you don't think you're good enough, because you don't believe you can do it, because you're scared, whether I'm self-sabotaging or what. So I think overcoming the belief that I could do door-to-door and be successful at direct sales, or be successful outside of traditional go to 9 to 5, work a corporate job, just believing that. Like when I first got into solar, man, I wasn't trying to make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. I was just trying to make enough money where I could pay for my bills, help my parents out a little bit, and not have to clock in and clock out and have control over my destiny. Granted, that turned into a career, into a business, and has helped me achieve most of my goals and dreams, but it was really just proving to myself that I'm worthy, that I can do this, that everything that I read in the books for the last 3 years and everything that I programmed into my mind from the Tony Robbins and the Robert Kiyosaki's was actually true, and that I can do it. So I would say that was a big one. And then just growing up, lots of challenges financially and with my dad, a lot of trauma, man. And I think the cool thing about trauma is as you get older, you can either let it define you and you can either let it run your life, or you can put awareness on it and do the inner work in order to shift that. Because there's so many people out there that are running around and they're not happy, they're unfulfilled, they're not successful, they're overweight, or they're not happy with themselves because they're not doing the things that they know they should be doing, because they're allowing the trauma and the programs and the negative feedback that was instilled from them at an early age to run unconsciously in their psyche. And the challenge is, until you put awareness on that and you address that and you say, no, these programs, this history that was programmed from an early age, like this isn't who I am, and this isn't who I want my life to be. And the second that you can take ownership and start shifting some of those, your life starts to change. And it doesn't change today, it doesn't change tomorrow, but you compoundly continue to put energy into building that new life and that new version of yourself. And slowly but surely, you'll look back and you'll be like, man, I'm glad I started.
Earlier, you made a little comment. You said something about, the magic trip. And then I was like, hey, are you talking about mushrooms? You said, yeah. So let's make a little switch. That's more of sounds like a personal development journey. So walk me through maybe what you were going through, what you experienced to even like consider trying something like that. Maybe talk about the experience in general. For me personally, it's interesting. I didn't start thinking about this stuff till like 6 months ago. I don't think I ever would have touched it. Now that I have touched it, it's hard to describe to people. And I find it very difficult. I usually will say, hey, it sounds like it's like my older self. So I'm curious, like, what made you go down that? How did it help you? How did it not help you? Maybe you had a bad experience. Like, I'm just curious on that.
Yeah. So first off, I'll start with this. I think most of what society and mainstream media tells you is you should listen to the complete opposite. Growing up, my parents always used to have the news on. I used to be in my bed and hear it subconsciously in the background about how much fear is here and this war and that and all that stuff. And growing up, when I actually started making decent money, I'm like, wait a second. Literally everything that they told me about making money, going to school, getting a good grade, working 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life, hopefully retire, that whole idea of the American dream and corporate America, like it's a scam. Like the whole thing is a scam. Like you're telling me how not to make money, because I made money doing the complete opposite of what you said. So once I understood that concept, I started questioning everything from the food that we were eating. Okay, why is all this awful food that keeps you in a low vibration and that kills you being mainstream publicized and being promoted and pushed to children? So when you start thinking about like all the things that society, the 95%, the powers that be start telling you what to do and how to do it, once you start learning to do the opposite, you start questioning and you start shifting your paradigm. So mushrooms was always something that I was interested in. So for me, I started my personal development journey with like reading the success books, reading the sales books, going to the seminars, doing the whole Tony Robbins, walking on fire, like doing all that. And then as I started growing in my professional life, I also started growing in my spiritual life. I grew up Jewish. Not religious, but Jewish. That's how I was born. But I never really practiced it that much. So as I got older and started getting into business, I actually started getting more into spirituality because I started seeing the connection between business success and spiritual success, and started seeing that the laws of the universe and the law of attraction and visualization and quantum physics and energy and frequency, like all this stuff is combined. And I saw myself starting to materialize and manifest a lot of the things that I used to focus on and grow. So that just increased my belief that, hey, this stuff, this spiritual side of success is actually really important. So psychedelics and stuff is just something that naturally, I think the first time I did it, I was doing it as like a party kind of thing, which I didn't get the best experience. But then the times that I did it after that were very intentional. It was for the purpose of growing and going inward and helping me digest some of these big decisions and crossroads that I have in my life. And, you know, I'm not pushing any of this on anyone, but I think until you try it and you make sure you do it with the right intention in the right setting with the right environment, it really could be a tool to help you unlock different levels of consciousness, to help you navigate some of the challenges and struggles. Every time I've done it in the last 3 or 4 years, it's helped me recenter and help me go inward, especially if it's a challenging time in my life, because what we typically do during struggle or challenges, we start to focus so much on the external. We start to be so much in the business versus working on the business. And the only way to work on the business and get that elevated perspective is for you to take a step back and ground and recalibrate and center. And for me, I use that. I don't do it too often. I do it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But it always allows me to recenter, have a fresh perspective on my life as a whole, and almost allow me to look at my life as an observer so I can navigate through some of the challenges and things that I need to do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a different experience when you're partying versus you're sitting in the dark with maybe, you know, eye mask on. And I learned that myself. What would you give... You know, you're still a young guy. I mean, so I think it's really incredible what you've done, especially without any siblings. And I don't know, I don't know. It's just, I guess I don't talk to too many guys who are either my age or younger than myself who's already kind of made those moves. Like, it's usually older. Is there any advice you would have given your younger self on things you would have done different? Because, you know, when I get asked that question, there's not a whole lot I would have done different. Maybe I would have started stuff sooner, but I'm pretty happy with the path I took. Is there anything that you would have done different, or maybe advice that you'd give young guys listening to this?
Yeah, I'd just say trust the process. You know, there were so many times, especially before I made any actual serious money or before I was even getting close to my dreams, just the idea of being able to be financially free and retire my parents and travel the world and have nice cars and not have to worry so much about money, being able to go to a restaurant and actually order what I want and not what I can afford. During that time, I had so much fear. I had so much doubt. I had so much worry. I listened to all the naysayers of, Steven, get a real job. You think you can drop out of college, you loser, like all these things. And I just wish I trusted the process a little more. I wish I enjoyed the journey a little bit more, which is the same advice I would tell myself today, is just trust the process. As long as you are focused on your own trajectory and you stay in your own lane and you don't allow social media and the outside world and your parents and your pastors and your friends to dictate what you should or shouldn't do in life or dictate how big or small your vision is, but by just trusting your intuition and trusting that you know what's best for you more than anyone else knows what's best for you. By just trusting that, you're going to get to where you want to go probably a lot faster because you're not going to self-sabotage and you're going to get out of your own way a lot quicker. But most importantly, you're actually going to enjoy the process of making it happen. There's a good quote that says, marry the process and divorce the result, because it's so important. Most people, including myself, we focus so much on the result. And we talked a little bit about this. I want that car. I want that house. I want that income. I want to make 7 figures. I want to make 8 figures. I want to, this girl or that guy or whatever the case is, where it's like, that is a byproduct of the person that you become on the route of that pursuit of that goal. And what's more important, there's a great quote. I'm a big quote guy, if you haven't noticed. It says, you shouldn't want to become a millionaire for the $1 million. You should want to become a millionaire because who you will have to become in the process of becoming a millionaire.
Yep.
So if that's true, that process is so, so important. And the more you can tune into that and tune out of the result and external, the happier and quicker you're going to get there.
Yeah, your success will never exceed your personal development. In fact, I think now, especially when you cross all the T's and dot the I's, when you have a really good base of understanding a business, there's nothing really anyone's going to show me at this point about a new funnel or new marketing strategy that I probably haven't seen, or at least it's not super complex. Or you could even say, hey, Tanner, go do this, and I could probably figure it out like that. But so I think a lot of getting to the next level is becoming the person and the leader that you need to be to attract the type of talent you need to win. And I've definitely been going through that because you really do have to change as a person, because if you don't, then you just will never attract the type of talent and team that you need to win. And as you get to higher levels, like top people have a lot of options. And so if you don't put yourself in a great position to lead from the front, I don't think they're going to pick you. In terms of what drives you at this point, I find it interesting because for me, I was so driven by money. Once I got the money, I wasn't really driven by that. I was kind of lost for a while, and I was like, man, why am I doing this? And it kind of almost felt like I was just doing it at that point because I had to or something. Do you have a driver at this point, or do you have an end game in mind? I know like the company is running, maybe you'll sell it, maybe you won't. But where's your thought process around what's the driver? Because when you're poor, it's very simple. I mean, it's survival. Like you just want to win. But now, when you start making a little money, I think that changes. So what's the driver for you now?
Yeah, I think you have to continue to evolve your why and the reasons why you do what you do. Because similar to you, a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, bought my parents a house. I was doing pretty well, had enough money where money wasn't really an issue anymore. It's very easy to be like, cool, I hit my ultimate chief aim goal, like I'm cool. And then unconsciously you take the foot off the gas. And I see this a lot in my company with salespeople. They'll come in, the most money they'll ever make in a year is $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Yeah. And then they'll come in, they'll make 120, 130, 150, which was their goal. And then they'll coast and they'll never be able to break that because they hit their financial set point. Mm-hmm. They got what they felt like they deserved and what they believed and they're comfortable with. Therefore, they start self-sabotaging and then they're stuck at that income goal for years and years and years. Versus being able to evolve your why, evolve the reason for doing what you're doing. So for me, every time I've hit a certain benchmark in my life, whether it's income, whether it's a personal goal that I accomplish, I continue to have to audit and evolve the reason for why I do what I do. At first it was to retire my parents, buy them a house, make good money, have a nice house, have a nice car, be able to take my girlfriend to sushi whenever she wanted, right? I was able to accomplish that. So now it's more of, I want complete time and financial freedom. I want to create a lifestyle where I don't need a vacation from. Even today, I think I've done a decent job of investing and, putting money aside and living below my means. Yeah. But at the same time, if I walked away from solar today, I wouldn't be able to sustain my lifestyle for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Like I still, to some degree, have to trade my time and energy for money. I don't have as much leverage. So I think the big driver right now, other than the easy answer is to continue to find my potential and see what more I have left, it's to truly create a life where my passive recurring income every single month exceeds my lifestyle. So truly, if I wanted to go move to Tahiti and go meditate and do ayahuasca on a mountain, I can do that without having to compromise my lifestyle or my family's lifestyle. So I think financial freedom is probably my biggest focus right now. I have the independence, but I don't have enough recurring income where I can truly choose to do whatever I want whenever I want. And then I imagine, to your point, from what we talked about earlier, once you achieve that, then you realize, man, I'm actually really fulfilled by building things. I'm fulfilled in continuing to progress, because I do believe that happiness is tied to progression. You could be in the worst financial situation, but if you're building towards something, or if you're making strides to get out of that, to some degree, you're fulfilled and happy, versus the billionaire who isn't doing anything all day because he's maxed out his life, or the Dan Bilzerian figure who has maximized his dopamine measures with all the pleasure. He's probably not as happy because there's not much progression for him to go make. So I'd say right now, Tanner, it's really just to create a financial situation where I truly could walk away if I wanted to and sustain my lifestyle. And then once that occurs, it's going to find something else that I truly would do even if I didn't get paid to do it.
You seem like you're a deep thinker. So a deep question is, in your opinion, what's the point of life?
The point of life, in my interpretation, and I bet if you ask me this question in 5 years, I'll have a different one, but I think it's just to really maximize your full potential. I think it's really to just go out there and take all of the risk, all of the challenges, all of the comfort zones that you have and shatter them. I think it's really just maximizing. If we only do have one life, which no one knows if we do or not, so assuming that we have one life, your ability to maximize your experiences, maximize the value that you add to humanity and to your family, maximize the amount of fulfillment that you're able to get from achieving your goals and dreams, that is really the ultimate currency. You know, I'm reading a book right now. It says it's called Die with Zero. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the whole premise is that you should die with $0 in your bank account, $0 in your net worth, because you should take that money. You work so hard, you trade your life force, your time, your sanity, your energy for all this money. And most people, they die with so much money and they never actually fully maximize it because of this conceptual false belief of security or passing it down to your heirs, when in reality, it's like you should go leverage that money, not for just more money or compounded interest, but for experiences, because, you know, you can't take your money with you, right? The Egyptians tried. It doesn't work. So by going out there and actually going after your goals, your dreams, the things that make you uncomfortable, maxing out your experiences. I think if you could be on your deathbed, hopefully 80, 90, 100, 110 years old, we'll see how technology treats us in the next couple decades. And you can be like, man, I really played full out. I really gave it my all. I did all the things that I said I wanted to do. I learned all of the information, read all the books, went to all the countries, like really just maximizing your experiences with yourself and the loved ones. I think that's what life's all about.
Do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Do you even thought about that? I just love it when it's a young guy because you never know. Because I see myself in the past. I try to think that through.
Yeah, I do want kids, probably not for the next 2 or 3 years. I do want to get married. I have a girlfriend of 7 years that, you know, it's probably...
She's expecting it.
It's probably about that time here soon. So yeah, man, definitely want kids. I'm an only child, so, you know, I probably want more than just one kid, so I don't put as much pressure on them as was on myself. But yeah, man, I think kids are important, you know, plus Elon Musk says that not having enough kids is the biggest threat to humanity right now, so I want to help pop Elon out.
Elon's doing his part. I think he's got a couple wives here and there. He's definitely doing his part. He's got not a couple wives, excuse me, but he's got a bunch of kids. I know it's a couple women, so he's definitely doing his part to help us out. Steven, dude, super inspiring, dude. I get super inspired by like young guys who are like taking it by the horns and they're just putting in work. And I think also like just the company you built, like it's not an easy company to build, man. Like, you know, I just know from experience door-to-door sales, and so to build a whole company around that process is super insane and super inspiring, and it's a great business model. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit jealous. Sometimes I think, you know, it's like there's so many opportunities. Which opportunity should I take or invest in? But I think you picked a great route, and the sky's the limit for you. Anyone who's listening, like, where can they find you? Where can they connect to you? Where should they go?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Steven Cohen, StevenCohen. And I have a podcast, Millennial Millionaire. It's on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, basically anywhere. And it just talks about basically everything we've been talking about, just young professionals, how to get more out of life, maximize your potential, chase your goals, dreams, sales, investing, etc. So they can definitely hit me up.
All right, man. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're the man, Tanner. Appreciate you.